But don't do this when they're in a big pack or in the middle of a turn. That might create a bigger problem. If a guest does not respond, you might need to shut down the session in the way we already told you about. Politely notify the driver that another infraction means he'll be removed from the track. The other main function of a track attendant is correcting spun-out carts. This happens more than anything else. Where the track attendant is positioned during the session will directly relate to where the spin-outs occur. Now, when a spin-out occurs, follow the same guidelines we've already talked about. Notify the operator to call down the session by turning on the yellow light and hitting stop on the remote. When you enter the track area, be aware of any carts in your area. Never position yourself between the cart you're moving and the oncoming carts. And always move the cart by the roll bar and the steering wheel. Never push from the front to avoid having the guest inside accidentally hit the gas and run into you. Now, when you're pushing the cart back into position, you could give the guest some driving tips, especially if the spin-out could have been avoided. If the spin-out was caused by another guest, speak to the guest at fault if possible. Once the cart has been redirected and you are completely off the track, notify the operator to continue the session. Going green, going green. When the session is over, the track attendant might be required to open the pit entry gate to allow the carts back into the pits. Wait for an opening when no cart is present before opening the gate. You need to give the guests ample time to slow down. And as the carts enter the pits, caution the guests to slow down and not bump other carts. Be sure to stand behind the gate so you're out of the path of the cart. When all the carts have entered the pit area, close and latch the pit gate. Once the pit entry gate is closed, the pit exit gate should be open so the next session can begin as soon as possible. Track attendants that are positioned close to the pit area may be needed to help seat guests in between sessions when not double pitting. Follow all pit crew functions. Once all guests are seated, return to your track position. And here's the key point to remember. Be aware of your surroundings. Never enter the track or bumper area during an active session. Use proper lifting and bending procedures when moving a cart as instructed by your manager. The important position here in the pits is that of operator. He's working at the main console and he is responsible for starting all sessions safely. Once the guests have all been loaded, the pit crew signals clear, the operator begins the session. The session begins with the guest briefing. It's either read live by the operator on the PA or you've got your automated spiel. If the operator does the briefing himself, your manager should have a script for you to learn. Be sure to begin briefing once the guests are done adjusting their seatbelt. Make sure you have their full attention. While the briefing is taking place, the operator should be watching the guests to make sure the guests are paying attention, and the operator will answer any questions that may come up at the end. Once the guests have been briefed, the operator will give the signal that the session is going to begin to the pit crew and the attendants. At that time, the guests will be signaled to slowly leave the pit area by the attendant, and the operator will begin the ride timer. During the session, the operator will closely monitor the session, looking for signals from the track attendant. If the track attendant needs to enter the track for any reason, the operator will call the session down by turning on the yellow caution lights and hit the remote shutdown to red, stop, off. The same will take place if the operator noticed a problem the track attendant didn't. The operator would then notify the attendant to resolve the problem. An operator should never leave their position unattended. If a spin-out is close to the pit area, a pit crew member should handle that instead of the operator. Now, when the session is over, most timing systems will automatically turn on the caution lights and sound a buzzer. On some systems, the operator will need to turn the caution light on manually. Once the caution lights are on, the operator will then use the remote to indicate crawl speed. That's if you've got it installed. Some timing systems will be tied into the remote, and that will turn on automatically as well. While the carts are entering the pit area, the operator will watch the guests, and he will signal to enter slowly and remain seated. The operator can and should use the public address system to communicate with the guests, as well as using hand signals. After all the guests have entered the pits and come to a complete stop, the operator should signal guests to exit by using the public address system. The operator should monitor the guests while exiting, continually making exit announcements to stay on marked curbs and to follow the exit lanes. After a new set of guests has entered, begin the cycle all over again. Key points to remember here: be sure to have the attention of all the guests before beginning the briefing. Never leave the operator position unattended during a session, and always keep your focus on the track. All right, now it's time for Bob Wheeler to get a little serious with you now. During the course of the day, you might get a situation that requires you to remove the guests from the track. Give them the old black flag before they finish their full cycle. If possible, have the guests return to the pit area once you've stopped the ride. It is your responsibility to unload the guests from the ride and ask them to get back into line. Now, this should be done in a calm and orderly fashion while you explain what is happening to the guests. If you stop a session and you feel there might be a reason to keep the guests loaded, ask them to remain seated. Wait for your manager to discuss the situation, and please take a note that an evacuation should not take place without the approval of the manager unless the nature of the situation requires immediate action. Let's talk about emergency situations when your crew's got to spring into action and save the day. The most common emergency on the track is simply a cart breaking down, stalled in the middle of traffic. What do? It's very simple. First, you're going to slow the whole field down by putting the track condition to yellow. Make sure the drivers out there all see that it's time to slow down. Once they get a look at that yellow light, you're going to use your remote shutdown and actually shut off all the carts. Then it's safe for the attendants to go out and deal with the situation. One attendant should go to the disabled cart, check to make sure it's not just a simple stall. He can try a restart on it. If he can't restart the cart, it's time to get it off the track. Contact maintenance, let them know they got a repair job coming in. The attendant should get the guest out of the cart, escort them back to the pit area first, then you can remove the cart. Once the cart has been removed, you can resume the ride for the rest of the guests and make sure the guest that had to get out of the cart gets back in line and gets a chance to complete his or her ride. Now, if a guest stops on the track, the track attendant should ask them to keep moving. Reduce the speed of all the carts if the guest is in danger of being struck by other drivers or does not continue on. And of course, when in doubt, call the manager for assistance. Now, it's a beautiful day here in Oregon, but sometimes you've got to operate your track under adverse or even severe weather conditions. Rain is not good for the go-kart track, so you want to hit that yellow light immediately and have the guests all proceed to the pit area very slowly and very carefully. Even under the covered pit area, wet tires might have a little trouble stopping. So bring everyone into the pits and get them out of the carts. Notify management that you're shutting the ride down, and be sure to keep your guests informed via the PA system of any developments when you're going to reopen the ride. Management should always make decisions on reticketing or refunding the guests. Now, in the event of fire, you want to stop everything immediately. Full shutdown on the track, get the guests out of the carts, and escort them to the pit area. And of course, in the event of anything like severe weather and fire, always notify management immediately. How about if a guest gets out of a cart on the track? Well, stop all the carts with the shutdown system, and the closest attendant should go to the cart and ask the guest to get back inside and fasten his or her seatbelt. Got to figure out what the problem is, and then please resume the session as soon as safely possible. Now, what if a cart goes off the track? Doesn't happen very much, but it can happen. You want to stop all the carts with the automatic shutdown, and all the attendants should spring into action. One attendant should go to the stricken cart. Everybody else should hold your stations, make sure everything's kosher, and of course, notify management of a situation like this. How about if you get an oil or gas spill? Again, it creates a slippery situation. These tires are not made to run around with a little sheen of oil on the track. So stop the carts immediately. Any little bit of extra driving can just spread it out more and make your cleanup time and your downtime a lot longer. Have all the guests exit the track on foot, and then get out your dry 'em up, your absorbent material, go right to the source of the spill, soak it up, and dispose of that material appropriately. Want to be kind to Mother Nature at the track. And then the manager will decide when you can resume operation of the track. All right, now let's take some notes here and some important points of emphasis. I like to call this Bob Wheeler's 11 Commandments of Safe Track Operation. Number 1, never approach a cart until it has been reduced to a crawl speed. That means the yellow light's been on, everyone on the track knows what's going on. In the pit area, never approach a cart until it has come to a complete stop. You never want to walk on the track or around the bumper area with the session running. Never allow more than 2 guests in a 2-seat cart. 1 seat per guest. Got it? Good. Never allow more than one guest in a single cart. Same philosophy. Always enforce the age and height requirements. No tippy toes. Anyone driving a cart must be the intended seated position while driving. Now, if you feel you have a guest complaint you can't handle courteously, ask the guest to wait and call your manager. Should you notice anything you feel is unsafe or wrong, don't hesitate to stop the session and call your manager. Make sure if at any